What is up, everybody? Welcome to the MMA Engine and welcome to Propability. We're going to take a data-driven look into these props for UFC Vegas 59. We have Jamahal Hill going against Thiago Santos, and I'm really looking forward to this show. I've been waiting for it because I'm taking a look at money lines, and there are a lot of big favorites, a lot of juicy spots in terms of the money lines, but I'm hoping to find some spots here in terms of the props because as far as the money lines go, I don't know if I have a ton of action on that aspect of things, but hoping some spots stick out here. And as always, I'm here with Uncle Weezy. Uncle Weezy, what is up? You looking forward to this card and the show?
Yeah, the card's all right, but sometimes in some of these lower level cards, the time props get smashed one way or another and present us with just ridiculous opportunities as compared to where the analytics say that the lines should be placed. And that's because a lot of these guys are kind of one-dimensional on this card. We come up with a lot of binary fights where it looks like the fight can only take place one way. But this is mixed martial arts, and a lot of times our eyes will kind of fool us in terms of being too sure something's going to happen or being too sure that one fighter's terrible, whatever. We've got all this data. We're going to find out the lines that have been overmoved or the lines that were just plain opened in the wrong spot, find some spots to take advantage of here, and take some money bags from these bookies. So I'm looking forward to breaking it down with you in the chat.
That is the goal. Yeah, a couple spots already sticking out. I'm curious to see what the prop template does say about those. But let us shout out the chat before we get started. Also, if you guys can please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel. We just hit 1.3K subs, so do appreciate that as well. And if you guys have not already checked it out, check out me and Lou Betch's Dana White's Contender Series breakdown. We broke that down from a betting perspective. So first one here, we got UFC Egg. What is up, UFC Egg? Undertaker. We got Zach Meatball. We got Andy G, Chalk Dog, Philip, Prince of Mischief, Rob, Tupac, Boris K. We got Herb Dean in the chat. Appreciate you all hanging out. Leave a like. It does go a long, long way. Let's find some spots on this card. And we will start with the first fight of the night here. We have Mara Bueno Silva going against Stephanie Egger. The fight goes to decision, minus 215. The fight doesn't go to decision, is plus 165. This is on 5 dimes. BetOnline does not have any props out for this fight, and I think that's the only fight they don't have props out yet for. So yeah, these lines are on 5 dimes, but we got the fight doesn't go sitting there at plus 165. Weezy, what is sticking out on this one here?
Well, we got this big red or the big green blob here, and we got the big red blob here. And what that's telling us is that these ladies are finishing their wins at the UFC level. 5 of their 6 combined wins, finishing inside the distance, 83.3%, but 0 of 3 losses. Coming inside the distance, so 0%. And then we also got Mara Bueno Silva's been to a draw as well. So neither Egger or Silva's ever been finished at the UFC level. And if we go over here to their overall experience, we can see that they've never been finished as professionals. So 80% finish rate in their combined 15 wins, 0% finish rate in their combined losses, and we have a draw for Bueno Silva. So when we see the fight doesn't go at plus money here, plus 165, that is a 37.75% implied probability. These fights are finishing inside the distance 35% of the time. So, it's fairly priced. Both the fight goes and the fight doesn't go. We're kind of paying a vig here when we compare those implied probabilities of the lines to the divisional finish rate and the decisional rate here. But 5 of their 10 combined UFC fights have finished inside the distance. So when we compare those numbers to the implied probability of the line, it looks like we're getting a little bit of a value there on violence, 15.1%, 12.3%, and we're only overpaying by less than 3% when we compare the long-term benchmarks. So, the prop template kind of likes violence here, and frankly, but with a Silva-Egger fight, I think that this fight probably will get to the grappling, which is where both Silva and Egger, in my opinion, are their most dangerous. But while this fight is standing, I feel like Silva is going to be very dangerous in the striking just by the way she throws. She's nasty. And Egger is a little bit more one-dimensional. So, yeah, I think I would lean violence in this spot. You usually are going to get a little bit better than plus 165 for a fight doesn't go. But we also need to keep in mind that Silva's coming up a weight class here, and that can actually change things as well. This is something where if you have a strong lean one way or another, there is compelling evidence on both sides. The compelling evidence for the fight doesn't go is the fact that you have this 15.1% edge here and the 12.3% edge here. But what the compelling evidence for the fight does go to decision is the 3 combined losses. These ladies have never been finished. We even have a draw. So these you could say if you're betting the fight goes to decision at -215, you're counting on the durability of Egger and Silva. And if you're betting the fight doesn't go, you're counting on what we've seen already at the UFC level from these 2 ladies, which is an ability to finish in their wins.
Yeah, I think for me, I would kind of lean more towards on the toughness and durability of both fighters, that they've never been finished. I mean, you take a look at their finished wins. Morella Barella, submission win for Bueno Silva, also submitted Kellum on the Contender Series, and then also submitted Jillian Robertson. That one's really impressive. Stephanie Egger did submit Jessica Rose Clark and Shanny Young, so they're not finishing the best level of competition. I think this does probably go the distance, but -215, probably not going to get there. So I think we can move on to the next one. We have Corey McKenna going against Miranda Granger. The over-under is set at 2.5. The over 2.5 -300, which you got to imagine that's probably the most juiced over on the card. The under 2.5 is +240. The fight goes to decision -260. The fight doesn't get to decision is +200. Weezy, what is sticking out on this one?
So the first thing I can think of with McKenna is that she's been really durable. Nobody's really finishing Corey McKenna. And if we look over here at the career statistics for these 2 ladies, they're finishing at a combined 70% clip in their wins, but they've only been finished in 1 of 4 total losses. So 58.8% of their combined pro fights have finished inside the distance. But when we're looking at a 115-pound weight class, we're looking at a division that's got a 30.84% finish rate. And I mean, I think I haven't updated the stats here, but I believe I've got a new number, and I'll just check these out every once in a while. 30.88% is the new number. So yeah, it's actually it's almost right, the exact same. But the -260 for the fight goes, Brady, 72%, only overpriced by 3% when we compare it to that long-term benchmark of 69.16% of strawweight fights going to decision. I don't think that Corey McKenna could finish a banana, much less Miranda Granger here. And Granger does her best work with her submission game. And we know that Corey McKenna is a really good grappler, very accomplished on the ground with the wrestling and the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. So I feel really safe about this fight going to decision. And if we go down here to the fight goes to decision here, we can see that 5 of their 6 combined UFC fights have went to decision. That's 83.3%. The only fight that did finish inside the distance was when Amanda Lemos finished Miranda Granger. And we know what a dangerous finisher Lemos is in comparison to the rest of the strawweight division. So 83.3% of their combined fights have went to decision. That's a 14.2% better than the divisional decision rate, and 11.1% better than the implied probability of the fight going to decision at -260. So I could see using this over 2.5 or the fight goes to decision as a potential parlay piece this week, because I just see a very high likelihood of this fight finishing inside the distance, and 5 of their 6 fights have went to decision at this level. We're paying 72%, but we're actually getting a 10% break there. They're going to decision at a much higher percentage than the division does, and we're not really overpaying for the line. So -260 could be a potential PP piece here.
Sounds good. I like it. I agree with everything. I think the fight goes decision. -260 is not bad. As a parlay piece, the over 2.5 -300 is not bad. As a parlay piece, I would be fairly surprised if either of these fighters got a finish here. So we'll move on to the next fight here, and we have Josh Quinlan going against Jason Witt. The over-under set at 1.5 rounds. The over 1.5 -155. Under 1.5 +125. The fight goes to decision +230. The fight doesn't get to decision is -290. This was one I definitely had circled for some violence, Weezy, but they're all over it and probably a little bit more than they really should be. So this is one I will not be betting, but curious to see what the prop template says on this one.
Yeah, so I mean, Quinlan has 6 professional fights and they've all finished inside the distance. It's showing 5 of 6 here, but he tested positive for anabolic steroids in the last fight. So It was overturned to a no contest. And with the prop template, not to get into too much detail, but when something gets overturned to a no contest, but they knock the person out, it doesn't clock in as a finish. But we know that this dude is a killer be killed fighter, and that all 6 of his professional fights have finished inside the distance. And then you got a guy in Witt who he finishes at a 58% clip, but he's got a lot of decision wins. You know, he's got 8 decision wins in his career, says Jason Witt, but all 8 of his professional losses have come inside the distance. So you got to believe if Quinlan wins this fight, it's going to be inside the distance. But yeah, minus 290 for the fight doesn't go to decision is a 74% implied probability. It's 25.74% overpriced when you compare the finish rate of the division, which is only 48.62%, to the 74.36% implied probability of this line. You see this big red area here, minus 25.74. But when you compare the fact that 4 out of 5 of Witt's fights have finished inside the distance, and I mean, the only one that didn't was the Barberena fight, and that fight probably could have been stopped in a cut. I mean, Witt dropped Barberena a couple times, and then Barberena had Witt in all kinds of trouble in the 3rd round. That fight could have been stopped as well. So it almost feels like, you know, the minus 290, yeah, it's fat as fuck, of course, but we're actually really only overpaying by 7.7% if you compare the 66.7% finish rate of these guys' UFC fights to the implied probability of the line at 74.36%. And knowing that could easily, oh, and by the way, that's 4 of 6 because Quinlan's finish wasn't counted. So that would be 5 of 6, and it could still be 6 of 6 if whoever was refereeing the Barberena Witt fight would have stopped it. So it kind of feels like if you're looking for a chalky violence parlay, you could parlay this shit up to like minus 300, minus 330, and not cry about it if you lose. I mean, yeah, there's a possibility that Witt could grind this dude out for 3 rounds. But if he even leaves this fight standing for 2.5 minutes, that could be enough for Quinlan to land one big low leg kick or one big shot to the face to finish the fight. So, yeah, you got to lean violence here. You got a killer be killed fighter in Quinlan, and you've got a guy who's got one of the worst durability ranks in the entire UFC in Witt, who really needs to control about 12 minutes of this fight with his wrestling in order for this to have any chance of going the distance. So, yeah, let's use that minus 290 as a parlay piece if we can still find it better than minus 300 by the time we put this parlay together.
Yeah, I mean, I think it ends inside the distance. I am on the Quinlan side. I guess my only concern is I think the finishing is more so on the Quinlan side. Witt has a 58% finish rate. I could see a Witt decision, and that's kind of what's scaring me off the minus 290. And somebody mentioned in the chat the Witt scorecards only. That's the decision only. I think that's a really good look this week, and I think it might even be plus money. Quinlan, he's never been finished, but he only has a couple fights. So you really don't know, but he is a black belt in jiu-jitsu. His cardio doesn't look awful, so I kind of lean it being a Quinlan finish or a Witt decision. And if you take a look at the Quinlan inside the distance, that's minus 175. Quinlan by knockout, that's plus 100. Those are definitely not great. And then I was taking a look at the Quinlan scorecards, equals no action, potentially because Witt has been finished 8 times, and that's minus 400. So I probably won't be touching this fight unless something else opens up. But yeah, I think there will be violence in this fight, and I think Quinlan will eventually knock out Jason Witt. All right, let's move on to the next fight here. We have an interesting one. We have Brian Battle going against Takashi Sato. We have the over-under set at 2.5 rounds, the over 2.5 minus 180, under 2.5 plus 150. The fight goes to decision minus 155, and the fight doesn't get the decision is plus 125. Yeah, this one earlier in the week stuck out to me as a really sneaky, violent spot. We have 2 guys that are really good finishers and 2 guys that can absolutely be finished, Weezy. So I see a lot of green there. Can't wait to hear your thoughts on this one.
Yeah, man, both of these guys finish. 18 of their 22 combined wins inside the distance, 81.8%. 5 of their 6 combined pro losses inside the distance, that's 83%. So 82% of their 28 combined pro fights have finished inside the distance. So a ton of green there. Then we go over here to the UFC level, and we're seeing 5 out of their 7 combined fights have finished inside the distance, 71.4%. for the fight doesn't go to decision, for some reason, we're getting plus money here. And not only that, you guys, this is Bryan Battle's first fight at 170 pounds as a pro. Every other fight's been at 185. So he's making his debut. He's cutting more weight than he's used to cutting. That could make him potentially less durable. And Sato's been finished in 4 or 5 losses. So the fact that we're getting plus 125 for fight doesn't go to decision here, that's only a 44.44% implied probability. That gives us what we call, Brady, the trifecta here on probability. When we compare the finish rate of the division, which is 48.62%, to the implied probability of the line of 44.44%, we get a 4.18% edge over the books. When we compare the 5 of 7 fights that have finished inside the distance at the UFC level to the divisional finish rate of 48.62%, we get a 22.8% edge. And when we compare that 71.4% finish rate at the UFC level to the 44% implied probability of the line, we're getting a 27% edge. Add up that 27%, that 23%, and that 4.2%, and we're looking at 54%. So it's just screaming, bet me at plus 125. It's screaming, bet me, you coward. Get that money out of your pocket, get it up on the table, and take advantage of this massive gift that these losers are giving us because they mispriced this line. It's a big mistake.
Yeah, not only do all the numbers line up, but even like my analysis, right? Like Bryan Battle, very opportunistic submission artist. He submitted Andre Petrosky on the Ultimate Fighter. Very good on the mat. And what has Takashi Sato struggled with? Getting submitted. That's what he does. And then on the feet, Bryan Battle, although I really like him, he has like a 40% striking defense. He's going to be coming forward. He's super hittable. What does Takashi Sato do? Oh, he hits like a truck. So covers the Takashi Sato knockout, the Bryan Battle submission. The numbers line up and it's sitting there at not only plus money, but plus 125. So that is something I will definitely be taking a look at, and I'll be betting that fairly soon here before it moves. But yeah, good spot there, Weezy. That was one that also stuck out.
Yeah.
All right. Next we have, oh boy, here it comes. We have Terence Mckinney going against Eric Gonzalez. We have the over-under set at 1.5 rounds, the over 1.5 plus 185. Under 1.5 is minus 225. The fight goes decision plus 350. The fight doesn't go to decision is minus 500. Yeah, this is one I had circled as soon as I saw it get announced, but they're all over it now. I mean, remember they set the over under 2.5 for the Zion fight. They did the same thing in another fight for Terrance Mckinney against Dober, but this time it's over under 1.5 and the juiced to the max, minus 225 for this under. So. I think they've finally caught on to who Terence McKinney really is, Weezy.
Yeah, and Terence Mckinney is just about as exciting as it gets in the entire UFC. He's got 16 professional fights. All 16 of them have finished inside the distance. Has he ever seen a third round?
He has seen 1/3 round, and that finished in the first minute of the third round.
That's unbelievable, Brady. I mean, to have that many fights, and then you look and it's still green. It's still green. The line is minus fucking 500, and we still have got all this green when we compare, because they're both killer be killed fighters at the UFC level. All 5 of their combined UFC fights have finished inside the distance. So, you're counting on that trend continuing. Should it continue? Yes. Are you overpaying for this? Yes. But at this point, I feel like we could parlay, this McKenna fight goes, and then we could do the violence in the Quinlan Witt fight and the McKinney-Gonzalez fight. And we might be getting close to even money there. But we don't want to parlay 3 things and be laying juice. But it just feels like, how does any of those, how does McKenna or Granger get a finish? That would be shocking. And then to see Quinlan Witt go 3 rounds would be shocking. To see this go even into the second round would be shocking. But it's a parlay piece at best. Now let's click back here to the Witt Quinlan fight, right? We see that we were overpaying by 25.74% here when we compared the long-term benchmark to the implied probability of the line. Now look at McKinney Gonzalez. We're overpaying by 32.6%, Brady. And then when we look at the 1.5 and we compare that minus 225, 1.5 to the long-term benchmark of under 1.5, which is 33.43%, we're not just overpaying 32.6% like we are here. We're actually overpaying by 35.8%. It might be just the kind of thing where you just throw a quarter unit on the over 1.5 simply because 66.6% of these fights go over. You're paying 35.09%. You're getting a 31.5% edge. It almost never happens. But the only reason that you would ever get that big of an edge comparing the long-term benchmark to the implied probability of the line is if the entire street is out there on one side and they're screaming that there's gonna be violence here, and they're pretty much right. I mean, you're just being a contrarian if you're getting in the way of that smoke. Nothing wrong with being a contrarian if you do it small and you pick your spots, but we should be seeing violence here.
Yeah, I will not be contrarian in this fight. And I actually am surprised they have the fight doesn't go up minus 500. Like they have McKinney minus 1,000. I kind of thought they were just gonna put the fight doesn't go like minus 800 and call it a day. And I bet you FanDuel and DraftKings they're going to have it at like minus 1,000. I bet you they always overprice these fight doesn't go. So on Bet Online you can't parlay the fight doesn't go. So that kind of sucks. But I know Bovada has it out, but it's like minus 550 something like that. But on books, you can parlay like a DraftKings, like a FanDuel. I think they're just going to set it like minus 900, so you can't parlay it is my concern there. But yeah, this fight should finish. It should finish under 1.5. I don't like really playing under 1.5, especially at minus 225, so I'm not going to be doing that. But I do think this fight does finish probably in the first round. Another thing I was talking about earlier, Weezy, Terrance Mckinney, round 1, minus 200. I've never seen anything like it. It's like Francis Ngannou is Francis Ngannou fighting Malcolm Gordon. That's what it feels like minus 200 Terrance Mckinney in the first round. Crazy.
Yeah, I know. And remember we were talking about Michael Morales inside the distance was minus 200 last week. And we were laughing about that. And they were giving them all 3 rounds. Now you have to pay the same as you paid for Morales inside the distance. And it took Morales until the 3rd round to finish that fight. So, your butt cheeks were clenched if you laid minus 200 on the inside the distance there going into that 3rd round. Now imagine laying minus 200 only for the first round finish. I think I might just sprinkle a fight starts round 2 here or an over 1.5 simply for the fact that Terence McKinney's a really good wrestler. And if he gets this fight down to the ground, kind of like how Rafa Garcia easily got the fight to the ground against Eric Gonzalez in Combate, he might be able to work some minutes and actually drag this fight on a little bit longer than most McKinney fights go. It's just kind of unbettable at this point. But if you want to throw it in a degenerate 3 or 4 leg parlay, fight doesn't go minus 500, I won't hate you for it.
Yeah, these props are just crazy. Like McKinney by submission, I remember it was like plus like 800, plus 9, something like that against Zion. It's plus 125 for McKinney by submission.
You can't do anything with that, man.
I know
you just shouldn't be betting that. It's just a really bad long-term move. But McKinney is so much fun to watch, and everything that he does, it just jumps off the screen. I can't wait to see this dude fight. A lot of people are shitting on this card, but this dude Quinlan is super exciting. Battle Sato is going to be a fun fight. Terrance Mckinney, super exciting. And then we got Lipski Cachoeira. We got one of the best cheaters to ever step into the UFC cage coming up next. And we're just getting started, you guys. It's a pretty good card in terms of just watching it and seeing some exciting fights.
Absolutely. I think the card is definitely going to deliver from a fan perspective. We'll move on to the next fight. We have Mikel Olazechuk going against Sam Alvey here. The fight doesn't go minus 160. The fight goes to decision plus 130. They set the over under at 1.5. Over 1.5 minus 165. Under 1.5 is plus 135. I have no clue what to do on this one, Weezy. So we'll see what the numbers say on this one.
Yeah, so let's look at the data because I kind of have no clue either. But we've got a shit ton of fights, right? 52 for Alvey, 22 for Olazechuk, 74 total fights. And in those 74 total fights, we've only got a 60% finish rate, 59.5 to be exact. So not great. Alvey's fights definitely go a lot longer than Oleksiejczyk's do. And then if we look here at the UFC level, you've got 16 of 31 combined fights have went to decision. That's only 51, or that have finished inside the distance. That's only 51.6%. We're paying 61.5% for fight doesn't go here. And to me, that's a little bit alarming. You know, we're overpaying 6.08% when we compare the 55.5% finish rate to the 61.54% implied probability of the line. And we're overpaying by 9.9% here and 3.8% here. So it's the reverse trifecta. If we go down here, the fight goes to decision, we can see that we're getting a 4.9% break here, a 3.8% break here, and a 1.07% break here. We actually have a trifecta here, and it's plus money. So the data likes overs. The over 1.5 at minus 165 is very intriguing to me. But here's the problem, right? That it's, you know, the data tells us one thing, but then we have to use our eyes. We're watching tape. We know what Sam Alvey's been up to lately, you know, and we know, I think that we also heard that this is his last UFC fight, win or lose. You know, so a guy who's been historically very durable in Alvey and very difficult to knock out. Alvey's a scrapper, but what's left? You know, is the hunger still there for Sam Alvey? You know, if Oleksiejczyk starts putting it on him, is he just going to look for the door? It's probably a lot more likely at this point in his career than it would have been 2 years ago. So the data likes the overs and the fight goes here. Do I have the balls to bet it? I don't think so. But, you know, Sam Alvey is historically in very low volume, slow paced fights. He loves to counter. He's good at it. So he often slows down the offensive attack of his opponents. So I don't hate fight goes to decision here. It's going to be something I'm going to be taking a look at. The analytics like it too, Brady.
Yeah, I don't know what I like in this fight, honestly. I mean, you take a look at Sam Alvey's last run. Since he last got his win against Jean Vellante, right? He got knocked out by Nogueira. He got knocked out by Jimmy Crute. There's 2 knockout losses there. Against Julian Marquez, he actually got knocked down and then submitted instantly. And then against Brendan Allen, he also got knocked down and he got submitted instantly there. So in that last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 loss stretch, he has been finishing half of those. And I guess it's more so on the Oleksiejczuk side for me with the question marks. He is cutting down weight for the first time. And it's weird. Sometimes Oleksiejczuk comes out there like a bat out of hell, like against Jean Vellante, finished him in a round. Against Antigulov, he knocked Antigulov down 3 times, finished him quickly. Against Jamahal, he was putting it on Jamahal, finished him quickly as well. And then there's also some fights where Oleksiejczuk kind of takes his time, stays on the outside, like against Dustin Jacoby, like against Modestas Bukauskas. So if Oleksiejczuk goes out there and says, I'm going to finish Sam Alvey and do it in the very first round, I will have some concerns then. Or he can go out there and just pick apart Sam Alvey easily, win minutes. Alvey's not going to really do much. I mean, maybe he does. Alvey, this is his last fight. Maybe Alvey goes out there and just goes balls to the wall. I don't know. But this is a fight I just don't feel comfortable with having money on one way or another. Oleksiejczuk minus 700. Oleksiejczuk inside the distance, minus 125. Just nothing really sticking out. So I think I'm going to sit back, watch this one. The line is the money line for Oleksiejczuk's crazy. And as far as the props go, I really just don't know. So I'm going to stay away from this one. We can move on to the next one. We have Ariane Lipski going against Priscila. Catch a beating. This is going to be a fun one to talk about. We have the over-under set at 2.5 rounds. Over 2.5 rounds, minus 215. Under 2.5 rounds, plus 175. The fight goes to decision, minus 190. The fight doesn't go to decision, it's plus 155. So I'm curious to see what the numbers say about this one because I kind of lean violence here. I mean, Lipski, the queen of violence. Priscila catch a beating. You know she brings the violence. Just what's scaring me away is just how durable Priscila catch a beating is. But at the end of the day, she blocks punches with her face. Lipski hits very, very hard. Could Lipski be the first one to knock out Cachoeira? Cachoeira has also been submitted, I believe, twice. Lipski has a couple submissions on her record. So I think this one has some sneaky finishing upside, Weezy. So curious to see what the prop template says about this one.
Yeah, so, and I mean, you see it here. It's a lot of light green here. So it's liking the analytics. And we can see a nice, predictable, robust data set here is we've got 50% finishes in their UFC wins, 50% finishes in their UFC loss. And we know when you add 50% and a 50%, we're going to get a sum that's going to be right around 50%. And it's 50%, my friend, 7 of 14. So, 50% of their fights finishing inside the distance, but we're only paying at plus 155 for fight doesn't go, 39.22%. So we got a trifecta, my friend. We've got a 1.69% edge over the divisional finish rate, which is 40.9% compared to the 39.22% that we're paying on the line. And then the 50% finish rate compared to the 41% finish rate for the division, that's 9% better. And we got a 10% edge over the implied probability of the line here when we compare their 50% combined finish rates at the UFC level to the 39.22% implied probability of the line. So, yeah, man, it looks like violence here is something that the analytics is saying is underpriced according to the prop template.
Yeah, man, I feel like it could definitely be sneaky. I want to double check here on the finish rates for Lipski. So Lipski, yeah, she does. She's won 21% of her wins by submission. I remember she submitted Luana Carolina on the mat. Priscila Cachoeira has been submitted twice. Lipski 64% finish rate, Cachoeira 55%, and then Lipski's actually been knocked out 3 times. 2 were on the mat. One was against Antonina. The other was against Montana De La Rosa. And Lipski also got knocked out outside the UFC. I forget against who, but yeah, Lipski's been knocked out 3 times.
Yeah, and Cachoeira hits like a truck, but so does Lipski. I mean, Lipski's got serious power for a woman, and she's the much cleaner, much more technically sound striker here. She uses her length well, as you know. So, yeah, I could see violence happening either way. Do I want to be crazy invested in it? No, because, a lot of times it can be a little bit disappointing. And like you mentioned, Cachoeira is very durable. But I do like it. I think violence here and the analytics like it. When I see those trifecta bets, it really gets me wanting to bet it.
Yeah, I'll say this. I wouldn't want to be betting an over in a Cachoeira fight. Just sweaty. She's going to come forward winging bombs with no striking defense. And yeah, both these fighters hit really hard. So yeah, I don't hate that. I don't know if I'm going to pull the trigger on it, but it was one that I thought was pretty sneaky there. Let us keep moving on. If you guys have not already, please leave a like on the show. Also subscribe here to the MMA Engine. Me and Weezy do go live every Monday for probability after the Die Hard MMA podcast. All right. We have Sergey Spivak going against Augusto Sakai. And Weezy, this is one we were talking about earlier here. So on Bet Online right now, they have the over 2.5 rounds at plus 145, the under 2.5 rounds at minus 175. The fight goes to decision is plus 120, and the fight doesn't go to decision is minus 150. So something is not adding up here, Weezy.
Yeah, so, obviously the fight doesn't go to decision should always be pricier than the under 2.5. But in this case, the under 2.5 on Bet Online is minus 175. The fight doesn't go, sitting at minus 150. So that's an inversion in the market. You could actually bet the over 2.5 and the fight doesn't go to decision for a very small loss. If you get the units right on each side of it, you could take a very small loss. But we see here that 63.67% of heavyweight fights finish inside the distance, but 58.99% finish under 2.5. So that means there's like about a 4.5, almost 5% chance that the fight finishes in that last 2.5 minutes. And in that 1 out of 20 times, you're cashing both bets. So that's how badly this fight doesn't go to decision, is underpriced here. In addition, we have another trifecta, Brady. The fight doesn't go priced at 60%, but heavyweight fights finish inside the distance 63.67% of the time. So that's underpriced by 3.67% when you compare it to the long-term benchmark. And then we look here, both of these guys are finishing their fights at the UFC level at over 50%, 75% up here for Sakai and 62.5% for Spivak. So 68.8% of their combined 16 fights at the UFC level have finished inside the distance. That's 5% better than the divisional finish rate of 63.67%. And it's 8.8% better than the implied probability of the line, which is sitting at 60%. So fight doesn't go at minus 150 is a bet that I've already made for 1.5 units to win one. Stylistically, this is a striker versus grappler matchup, man. Either Sakai keeps this fight standing and should really batter Spivak on the feet. And if he's unable to keep this fight standing, dude, we know what the polar bear does on the ground, dude. And if somebody were to tell me that Sergey Spivak was in fact Nosferatu, a 6,000-year-old vampire just sucking blood, and I mean he looks exactly like he could be an undead, entity. That he's pale, he's got those sunken eyes. He's got those Transylvanian features that just lead you to believe if the referee wasn't pulling him off of these dudes, that he would sink his teeth into their neck and take all their blood too. So I could see Spivak getting a finish on the ground. I could see Sakai getting a finish on the feet here. It's a striker versus grappler matchup. It's a heavyweight fight. I think this violence is seriously underpriced here.
Yeah, it's another situation for me where the numbers are lining up, the analysis lines up, striker versus grappler, and Daz is asking in the chat, how many times has Sakai been finished? He's been finished in 3 of 4 losses, 3 by knockout there, 3 in a row, actually. And yeah, Spivak, 86% finish rate, Sakai, 73% finish rate. Spivak as well has been knocked out in 2 of 3 losses, so we know that Sakai is very live for a knockout on the feet. And then on the mat, Spivak has great ground and pound, a great submission game as well. A couple submissions in the UFC, including a submission against Tai Tuivasa. So yeah, Spivak on the mat, Sakai on the feet, and then on top of that, on top of the numbers adding up, the analysis adding up, they mispriced the line. They got it wrong here. I'm taking a look at 5 Dimes right now, and 5 Dimes has the fight doesn't go to decision for the Sakai Spivak fight at minus 285. The fight going to decision plus 205. And then BetOnline has the fight goes plus 120, and the fight doesn't go at minus 150. So they're really off there. And then on top of that, like we're talking about, the under 2.5 on BetOnline is minus 175, and the fight doesn't go as minus 150. That should be flipped. It should be the under 2.5 minus 150. The fight doesn't go minus 175, something like that. But it's just wrong. So yeah, I did take the shot myself, Weezy.
Yeah, you guys, you got to go out there and take advantage of this right now. I mean, this is a mispriced market. There's free money out there. Shit, if you have BetOnline and 5 Dimes, there's free money here. You can max bet both of them. Get the unit size right on each side, so that you guaranteed win no matter whether the fight goes or doesn't go. You have to absolutely take advantage of these mispricings in the market, and that's why we watch a show like Probability, because the data is going to tell us when these things are mispriced, and more importantly, when we can stack up the lines from books next to each other and see that we can bet both sides and guarantee money. That's another way to just take advantage of this data that we're giving you and make a guaranteed profit.
Absolutely. That's why I love doing this show, man. And we got Daz with the dono. Daz saying up 20 units last card. There you go. Thanks for your help. Awesome. Thank you, Daz, for the dono. Thank you for hanging out. Really every week. We do appreciate all the support and love seeing you going out there and getting up 20 units. That is huge. Appreciate you, Daz, a ton. All right, guys. Thank you all for hanging out. Leave a like if you have not already. I see you in there, Gus, Dubspace Cowboy, Daz, Victor, Raw, BA, all you guys. Do appreciate you guys hanging out with us here on a Monday while we are breaking down some props. So we'll move on to the next fight here. We have the first Ultimate Fighter fights. We have Juliana Miller going against Brogan Walker. And, I lied. I guess the most juiced over on the entire card is on this fight. The over-under set at 2.5. The over 2.5 is minus 350. Under 2.5 is plus 275. The fight goes to decision, minus 325. The fight doesn't go to decision, is plus 250. So a very juiced fight goes here, Weezy.
Yeah, 17.38% overpriced when you compare this 59.09% divisional decision rate to the 76% price of this line. And it's the same thing over here at over 2.5. It would be about 63% compared to 77%. That's 14.79%. So, yeah, it's juiced, but it's juiced for a reason. When you look at the way that these ladies fight, Juliana Miller is going to be dependent on her grappling, and she gets her best work done when it's on the mat and she can work for submissions. But Brogan Walker's got good takedown defense. She's got good distance management with her striking. She's very scrappy. And Miller's incredibly scrappy. She's tough. She's born to fight. So I do see this fight going the distance, but at minus 350 for the over 2.5, minus 325, we are overpaying a lot, and there's not a lot of room for error once you start. You need to have a big advantage when you're paying minus 250, because there's no room for error there. And if we look at the overall stats, Brady, we see that only 3 of their 12 combined fights have finished inside the distance. We got a 9-fight sample size for Brogan Walker, and only 1 of them has finished inside the distance. So very, very decision centric fighter here in Walker. I see why this is juiced up. But, this is a UFC debut for both ladies. There could be nerves. There could be adrenaline dumps. This is one where I would kind of encourage you to not overpay for the fight goes here, because we are missing a little bit of information. And that information is going to be, how are these ladies going to perform under the bright lights with their UFC debut, with that contract on the line. Juliana Miller has only got 3 professional fights. So if she could show us some new things that we haven't seen before, yeah, this one is overpriced. And even though I can see why people would parlay this, I think I'm just going to stay away from it.
Yep, sounds good to me. I will not be having a bet on this fight, especially at minus like 3, whatever it was, like 330, 325. I'm just going to stay away. But yeah, I think it does go the distance more often than not, but I will not be taking a shot on that. All right, we have the heavyweight fight. We have Zach Pauga going against Mohammed Usman. We have the over-under set at 2.5, the over 2.5 minus 130, the under 2.5 plus 100. The fight goes to decision, minus 105. The fight doesn't go to decision, is minus 125. So this is one where I think if there's going to be a finish in this fight, it's probably on the Usman side. Zach Pauga has, I believe, 5 professional fights, correct me if I'm wrong, and 4 of those have went the distance. I think actually all of them went the distance. I think he got his very first finish on the Ultimate Fighter, so not even that doesn't even count there. So, and on top of that, those fights that he was fighting for, 5-0 as a pro, those are all at light heavyweight. So I really think that if there's a finish in this fight, it does come from Mohammed Usman. And if Pauga does win, I kind of see it being a decision. So this is one where I'd kind of take a look at the Pauga decision only, or even the Usman scorecards equals no action, which actually opened at plus 170. It's now plus 165. Usman is the real heavyweight. Zach Pauga, a very small heavyweight, and he's even a small light heavyweight. So I think if there's a finish, Weezy, it is going to come from the underdog and Usman. What do the stats say on this one?
Yeah, so the stats just basically echo what you just said, and that's that Usman's the far better finisher, finishing 6 of 9 fights, win or loss, so 66.67%, when it's only 1 of 5 of Pauga's wins that have been finished inside the distance. So you combine that, and it's 7 of 14 of their combined fights have finished inside the distance. In addition to that, in the house, you saw Mohammed go to decision twice. You saw Zach go to decision once and land a big shot, I believe, in the second or the third round against Heiderman in the second fight. So he got his second finish. But I screwed up. I put this down as a 205-pound fight. It certainly isn't. So this 57.29% finish rate is actually 63%. So right now, we don't have any data, obviously, in the UFC for these guys, but the implied probability of the fight doesn't go to decision at minus 125 is only 55%. But we know that 63% of heavyweight fights finish inside the distance. So this is very skewed towards the over here. They're definitely trying to get people to bet violence in this spot. And I don't think it's necessarily a bad idea to bet violence in this spot. It's a heavyweight fight. They're both of these guys' UFC debut, and like I just said in the last fight, that first performance for both guys, you could see an adrenaline dump, you could see nerves, you could see one person perform way better or way worse than they normally would. So I think that the violence is actually a little bit underpriced here, but it's something that you don't want to be too sure about either way, because we're missing a lot of information. Both of these guys are making their debut. And we don't really know how they're going to perform, in this situation. So I have a bet on Usman here at plus 200 because I think that he's got an experience advantage, a size advantage. He's probably got a grappling advantage because he's the more accomplished wrestler, and he's got really good conditioning. I think there's a lot of reasons to like him in this spot, but I think it's going to be a close fight. I think the violence is underpriced, like I said, but I don't think I'm going to be coming to a time prop bet on this fight. I would need to see this violence get way cheaper in order to maybe dip my toe into the pool. But yeah, it feels like a stay away because we're missing some information.
Yep, like the first Ultimate Fighter fight, I'm going to also stay away from this one as well. Yeah, I won't be having bets on either of them, I don't think. So yeah, another pass for me. I'm going to sit back and I'm going to watch this one here. All right, we have 2 fights left, and we have the co-main event. Yeah, really curious to hear the prop template's thoughts on this one. We have Vicente Luque going against Geoff Neal. We have the over-under is set at 2.5 rounds, the over 2.5 plus 125. Under 2.5, minus 155. The fight goes to decision, plus 110. The fight doesn't go to decision. Opened up minus 130. It is now minus 140. Weezy, what do we got here?
This is going to be such a fun fight. And I'll just go right over here to the UFC data because we've got robust data, and we're going to see some conflicting information. 13 of 14 wins inside the distance for Luque. Savage finisher. 5 of 7 wins inside the distance for Geoff Neal. Savage finisher with crazy power. So an 85.7% finish rate in their 21 combined wins. But here's the problem. Neither one of these guys has ever been finished. They're both incredibly durable. And they've fought studs. It's not like they're going through like clowns, like a hot knife through butter, and they just haven't fought anyone yet. Both of these guys are fighting top 10 dudes over and over and over and over again. So, you either have to count on the finishing prowess of both the guys, or you're saying that this fight goes to decision. It's going to be a tremendous sweat because both of these guys hit like trucks and they're both very active. This is a hard one to bet time props on, in my opinion. But the fight doesn't go to decision. It's only at minus 140. That's overpriced 9.71% when you compare it to the long-term benchmark of 48.62%. But 18 of their 27 combined UFC fights have finished inside the distance. So you compare that to the divisional finish rate, that's 18% better. That's significant. And we've got that. It's still 8.3% underpriced compared to the implied probability of the line at 58.33%. So I'm not hating on anybody taking a violent shot here. It's Luque against Neal. You just got to keep in mind that neither one of these guys has ever been finished. So that's going to be standing in your way, is the durability of both of these guys, the grittiness, guttiness of both of these guys. They're both veterans. They've both fought the top level that this division has to offer. It would be a fucking sweat, but, I think that I would count on that durability. 6 of 6 combined losses going to decision, but you're only getting that plus money, 9 of their 27 of fights that went to decision, only 33%, and you're paying 47. So it feels like a gigantic stay away from me, man. But if you're of the opinion that the winning inside the distance means more, bet violence. If you're of the opinion that durability means more, bet goes to decision or an over. But this is going to be a hell of a fight.
It's going to be a really good fight. Yeah, I don't know which way I lean either. I guess I would kind of lean towards there being a finish, but like you mentioned, both guys never been finished in the UFC. And I was kind of looking at the Luque finish only prop, but they're all over it. It opened up at like minus 175, and it's now minus 190. So I'm going to see if FanDuel DraftKings gets that better. But yeah, other than that, I won't have a bet on this fight. Curious to see where the line does go, though, because it opened up minus 130 for the fight doesn't go. Now minus 140. I wonder if money's going to keep coming in on that, and people are going to look at that finishing ability because both guys are legit finishers. Both guys are killers. It's just both guys are super durable. So, yeah, it's probably a stay away from me as well. One fight left. We have the main event. We have Jamahal Hill going against Thiago Santos. The over-under is set at 2.5 rounds. The over 2.5 plus 143. The under 2.5 minus 173. The fight goes to decision plus 250. The fight doesn't go to decision is minus 325. So I look on best fight odds and I see that hey, the under 2.5 is plus 120. I go on Bet Online to bet it, and it was not there. It was smashed. So it was open for 4 minutes, Weezy. It was up there for 4 minutes. The under 2.5 at plus 120. Shout out to anyone that got it. I just missed it. So yeah, that would have been a freaking smash spot. The under there. It's now minus 173. These violent spots are already getting smashed as we speak. They're opened up minus 280, already minus 325, and it probably just gets wider and wider. Weezy, what do we got on this one here?
Yeah, so very interesting stuff here because we've got 30 combined UFC fights for these two cats, right? 21 of them have finished inside the distance. That's 70%. So the implied probability of the line at minus 325 is 76.47%. So we're overpaying by 6.5% when we compare that 70% finish rate to the 76.47% implied probability of the line. These guys are finishing at 70%, which is 12.7% better than the 57.3% finish rate of the division as a whole. But it's a 5-round fight. And your Uncle Weezy spent some time yesterday updating these 5-round analytics. So let's zoom in on this shit, Brady, and let's see what we can find here. All right. So light heavyweight fights that are 5 rounds, there have been 53 of them. 39 have finished inside the distance. That is a 73.58% rate. What do we got for the implied probability of the line right now?
76.
Man, so we're even overpaying compared to the long-term benchmark here. And what have Thiago Santos' fights looked like lately?
Shit.
Like very slow-paced, counter-striking, hypnotize the opponent, make them afraid to come in. So we are overpaying for that violence right now. And I've got the fight goes, doesn't go. We're going to be working over the 1.5, 2.5, 3.5, 4.5, and the unders. And the fight starts round 2, 3, 4, 5, and the fight doesn't start round 2, 3, 4, 5. Going forward on probability, I've just got to update the rest of the analytics, feed them into the prop templates, and we're going to be, hopefully next week, Brady, working with a new interface here on the show so that we not only have 5-round prop templates, but we have 3-round prop templates like we already have, and that we give you a look into all the props. Fight doesn't start every round. Fight starts every round over 1.5, 2.5, 3.5, 4.5. So all of it. But what we're seeing right here is that this line has already gotten smashed and we're already overpaying on it based on the long-term benchmark. And then when we compare it also to the implied probability of the line here, 76%, these guys are only finishing at 70%. And Santos has been in a few 5-round fights, and I believe most of them have went the distance. So plus 250 for fight goes to decision is underpriced by a lot right now because we've got more than 28% of these fights going to decision. Boy, stylistically, you think Jamahal Hill is going to probably just take this dude's head off and do it early. That's kind of how I feel here, Brady, but minus 325 is a little bit expensive for me.
Yeah, I'm not betting this chalk on Santos fights anymore. I mean, it's gotten me so bad. Like the last fight, Mohammed Ankalaev, 25 minutes. Johnny Walker, 25 minutes. Alexander Rakic, 15 minutes. And even the Glover Teixeira fight, that went over 1.5 rounds. The John Jones fight, 25 minutes. The Blachowicz fight went over 1.5 rounds. So the last time he went under Santos was back in 2018 against Jimmy Manawa, who has one of the worst chins we've ever seen. Yeah, I mean, I think I'm staying away. I think Hill does win by knockout in the very first round. But what if he goes out there and, I don't know, gets into a staring contest? Like Johnny Walker has never really been one to go out there and get into a staring contest, and he did for 25 minutes. So I'm just done betting these Santos fights. I'm done with the guy. I'm shocked they even gave him another main event here. His last 3 fights have just been horrible. It's been 65 minutes of straight terrible fights, Weezy. So I'm going to stay away. But I do think this fight ends inside the distance.
Yeah, I do too. I just looked at the over 2.5 here is priced at 41.15% implied probability. I looked at how many fights went over 2.5 at 205 pounds for 5 rounds, and it's 47.2%. So that's like a 6% edge. I just feel like we should be getting more than a 6% edge. So, yeah, this feels like a stay away fight for time props because, if you bet violence and you see Santos pull the same shit that he has in his last 3 fights, you're going to be throwing your phone at the TV. And, and if you bet fight goes to decision and then Santos chooses to fight for the first time in 4 fights, you're probably going to lose that bet in the first minute of the first round. And you're going to feel like I did holding a fight starts round 2 ticket for Louis Pavlovich on Saturday. So maybe best to just stay away from this one, sit it out in terms of the time props at least.
Yeah, I'm done breaking phones, breaking TVs, and betting on Thiago Santos fights there. So do have a dono here. What is up, Victor, with the dono saying, thank you guys for changing this show to Mondays. It gives us a chance to jump on those timelines before they even get smashed. And that's a really good point there. Me and Weezy were very excited to bring the show on to Monday. It just makes such a big difference, doesn't it, Weezy?
It makes a huge difference. I mean, like right now, we've still got that inversion on Bet Online. It probably updated now because we probably got about 10,000 people watching the show, Brady. It's the hottest show on YouTube today. But let's see if that's still there.
Still there.
Wow. What are you guys doing? Get on it, man. Minus 150 for the fight doesn't go. Why is it still there? Or is everybody at Bet Online asleep right now? I can't believe that's still there. Hit that line. It's an absolute gift. But that's the point of doing it earlier in the week, you guys, is that these lines do move. And we want the content that we give you guys here on the MMA Engine to be something that's of value to you, to something that's, helping you add units to that bankroll at the end of every year. And the earlier we get this show out, the closer we get this show out to where the time props actually drop, the better chance the viewers of this show have to make some money. And that's the goal.
Absolutely. All right, Weezy, let's touch up on some of the spots that stuck out to us, and let's hit them with the probability parlay.
So bets that I've already made are fight doesn't go to decision for Battle Sato, 1 unit at plus 125. Fight doesn't go to decision for Spivak Sakai, 1.5 units to win 1 at minus 150. And then that Cachoeira Lipski fight doesn't go to decision has got that trifecta. It's underpriced according to all 3 metrics that we track. And the Alvey Oleksiejczuk fight goes to decision also has that trifecta, not nearly as big of the trifecta as we saw in that Battle Sato fight and we saw in the Spivak Sakai fight. But yeah, fight doesn't go for Cachoeira Lipski, underpriced. Fight goes for Alvey Oleksiejczuk, underpriced. And then it all right, so check this parlay out, Brady. If we were to get that fight doesn't go to decision for McKinney Gonzalez, right?
Yep.
Fight doesn't go to decision for Witt Quinlan. I mean, that could go to decision, but I'd be shocked because, Quinlan is such a nasty finisher. And fight goes for McKenna Granger. Would we get plus money there?
Yeah, plus 123.
Let's put a unit on that because all those seem like smash spots. It's great parlay spots. But in terms of the non-parlay spots that you're just betting straight, it's that fight doesn't go for Battle Sato, fight doesn't go for Spivak Sakai, fight doesn't go for Cachoeira Lipski, fight goes for Alvey Oleksiejczuk.
Sounds good. There we go. Yeah, I got a bet on the battle fight doesn't go. The Sakai doesn't go. Might put like a really small play on the Cachoeira fight doesn't go. I think that one's kind of sneaky there. I mean, they're going to throw down for 15 minutes. Cachoeira is going to catch a bunch of punches in her face, and maybe she falls down. But yeah, Weezy, we did it. We went through all the fights there. Let the people know where they can find you and what you have going on throughout the rest of the week.
Yeah, and don't forget, if we're looking for a violence bet there, Cachoeira could just be flat out disqualified for cheating, and nobody would be shocked to be like, well, she cheats a lot, so that could happen too. So that could be a sneaky spot. But you can find me tomorrow night, 10 o'clock Central Time on Uncle Weezy's YouTube channel for Just the Tip with Uncle Weezy. We're going to break down all these fights on this UFC Vegas 59 card. Maybe give you a greasy 4-leg parlay, but that'll probably come out on Wednesday once we see some more props drop. And you can find me on the MMA Engine YouTube channel every Monday for probability. We've been doing we're going to do the pay-per-view on the main event breakdowns. And you can also find me on Pub Sports Radio every Saturday for the watch along, Sunday for Stat Diggers, and Wednesday for the DFS show with Brady, Gordo, and Monk. So now that we've broken down all these fights from a time prop perspective, the last thing that we got to do, Brady, stack cash tickets like flapjacks for UFC Vegas 59. Let's get it, you guys.
Let's get it. Yeah, guys, follow me on Twitter, DFS_numbers, Instagram, DFS by the numbers. My full card breakdown prediction video will be out sometime tomorrow. Pub Sports live stream on Wednesday, live stream on my channel on Friday. Best bet will be coming out, my betting breakdown, lots of stuff coming this week as always. Leave a like on the way out, subscribe to the channel. Thank you so much for 1.3K subs. Let's keep growing the channel. And yeah, guys, we'll talk to you very soon. Best of luck for UFC Vegas 59. See you guys.